Oh, I was just talking about how, like, looking at, like, where you deliver value and, like, where you get profit, like, and how do you structure things where, like, the incentive, you're looking at both near-term, mid-term, and long-term behavior.
Right.
And like, previously, before that, I wasn't thinking about how I structured that.
Yeah.
I was making these just as something, well, people know, so they'll do.
Yeah.
And instead,
well, you realize too, most people are not sales oriented, right? So incentivizing them with commissions or, it doesn't do the same thing as just, hey, I'm going to incentivize you with this. You don't have to earn it. But in order to keep this person, we got to.
Yeah. I mean, well, you start with, like, what's the value we promise? Like, why are we really doing this? Because if it's to make a ton of money, you don't start a fitness company in Muncie. That's not your move. You know what I mean? It's about passion. It's about results. You care about people. You want to see people get better. You want to see people in your community get better that you see at the grocery store, you see at church, you see at the businesses you work with. And when you do, I think I've grown to realize, like, well, if we start with the value in the customer experience, what do they really, really, really value? How do we map backward from that so that that my coaches are getting the education experience, et cetera, that gets that value quicker?
Yeah.
How do we move it back so that we get the right type of athletes that are looking for the right thing? Like some of the questions you were asking on the phone earlier. Like, are people ready for a journey? Instead of like, I need a new place to exercise. I'm like, well, you're going to hate this place.
Yeah, because this isn't an exercise. This is masochism.
Yeah, a little bit, right? But I think, if it was so easy to get from point A to point B,
everybody would do it.
Exactly. And it's not point A to point B, it's point A to Z squared.
Yeah.
But people have it in their mind. It's like, well, this is just going to be simple. I'm just going to clean up this stuff and just do all that stuff. And I'm like, you way overvalue self-discipline and willpower because they are extremely exhaustible.
Well, it's like motivation. Motivation's cheap. It doesn't last long.
Oh.
You got to build discipline to get to that next step.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's discipline and willpower are also muscles. And I know, like, you're a Jocko fan. I am as well.
Jocko, yeah.
And he talks about, like...
We'll turn that around.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
That's not Jocko today.
That's right. It's all right. It's all right. If he's listening, that's great. That's be the best podcast ever.
Yeah, right.
But I think that it is a muscle. It can grow. Some people, like, underestimate it, but, like, you can build it up. But I don't know. I like this. I had a philosophy I used in a while. I wouldn't recommend it. You kind of grow up and you do dumb things when you're training and, like, reading Flex magazine before, like, trying to get big.
It's going, like, hey, I can look like that naturally.
Yeah, or it's like shock training is what I called it, where I'm like, well, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do this thing. So I would go do the thing I was training for on the first day of training, and then afterwards, I'm like, well, it can never possibly feel that terrible again. Yeah. And for 4 or 5 days, I have to recover from that stupidity. But I think there is some method to the madness sometimes when you're doing that with either self-awareness, self-growth, handling hard conversations, and salespeople, like making cold calls, making phone calls. What are you going to do? Make 100 when? Starting right now. What? I'm like, why? I'm like, you will be a different person at the end of today when you look at just the ratios that show up on the other end. It's like, oh my gosh, I left like 98% voicemails. I had 2% conversations. So I had 100 calls. I had 10 conversations with people.
You realize you're going to capitalize on those 10 calls.
It is. Yeah. And it's like you're looking at the inventory. You've shared before in a previous podcast about, like, scaling and efficiency and et cetera of those things. But if you go back to what we were just sharing earlier about, like, well, I'm ready to make a change. When people start making that assumption, they're not speaking from where they're currently at. They're speaking from this idealized result and thinking, oh, me knowing that I want to do that and the few little bits about how means I'm almost there.
Right.
And I'm like, that is the worst starting point. Even coaching someone I was coaching yesterday in my leadership, wearing my leadership consultant hat, is I was talking about, I'm like, you are an optimist. Oh yeah, it's really great. I'm like, that's your main problem. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? That's been one of my things. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's leading you to be miserable and disappointed most days. And I'm like, I need you to foster a level of cynicism. Yeah. With when you're reaching out, when you're doing your work, when you're dealing with your coworkers and your employees, and cynicism. I'm like, yeah, you need to substantially lower the bar for your expectations for everybody else so that you can be better. Yeah. You're out trying to chase these feelings for everybody and everything, and it's exhausting you, and you're getting frustrated and angry. And I'm like, so that's what optimism is breeding for you. Right. But instead, when I realized, when I'm like, we can use the cold call example again, I'm going to make a bunch of cold calls today. What are you expecting? I'm like, to leave some phenomenal voicemails all day long. All day long, and to get hung up on if I can't master that first 5 seconds. of engaging somebody.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a kind of that counterpoint you look at when you're like, all right, well, how serious are you
Exactly.
about moving forward?
Well, because it's going to hurt and it's going to suck and you're going to be hungry. You're going to be tired. You're going to be sore. You're going to be more than sore. You know, like what does that look like when you're at that point? What's keeping you here?
Well, I think the sore muscles, sore body is like, I think, lower stakes. I think it's sore ego is where the bigger problems.
Oh, I always tell people, they go, can't you get hurt doing CrossFit? That's I get that. Or isn't CrossFit dangerous? Or, I'm like, it only is if you let your ego get in the way. Because if you listen to the coaches and ask the coaches, because we're also coaching 20 people, so we're always, we're not necessarily thinking, Johnny needs to do XYZ until he comes and asks. It's like, Johnny, you're not trying ring muscle ups your first day in class, right? Like we're gonna start you in our fitness track. We're gonna build you up, teach you the scaling methods to get to those ring muscle ups 6 months from now. If that's a goal. Some people it's not a goal. It's just It's just like a snatch, right? Not everybody needs to snatch. That is a calculated risk that people decide to take if they want to compete in the sport of CrossFit or if they just want to learn a new skill. It's like walking on my hands. I don't need to walk on my hands for life. Honestly, it could be arguably not even, go against what I need to do in life. But I want to learn how to walk on my hands because I want to compete better, within CrossFit, within the sport. And I still can't walk on my hands. Probably one of the only CrossFit gym owners that can't. So
everyone's got their Achilles heel when it
kryptonite.
Comes up. You're watching the open come out, like it's coming, and then like it's the fourth workout. I think I made it fifth one. It's like there it is, and we've coupled it with something you're good at.
Exactly.
For me, it's handstand push-ups, and then they always. I'm a great deadlifter, so it's like they always pair them together.
They always pair them together.
Son of a bitch.
Our last team or partner competition that we did at the old building before we moved, legacy partner games. My partner was David Crane. Dave's a beast at handstand. I mean, he's a beast at pretty much everything. Dude's been doing CrossFit for like 12 years now, and he's 43.
That's my age, yep.
Yeah, so Dave, sorry if I aged you a little bit because I can't remember if he's 42 or 43, but he was my partner, and we teamed up, and I felt bad because, like, deadlift-wise, we're flying, right? Like, we're smoking the deadlifts, and it's like a 15-12-9 deadlift handstand push-up. And we get over to the handstand push-ups, and we knew going into it this was going to be the worst event. And I kick up on the wall, and I get like 3 handstand push-ups in. He's like, "You good?" He's looking over at me upside down, like, "Can we go? Can we go? Can we go?" And I'm like kicking down and doing singles by the end of it. Yeah. And we fly through the 12 deadlifts, but we couldn't get past that because it's like the 15 handstand push-ups took the entire 8 minutes or whatever the time cap was.
Well, I partnered. I had a partner. Shout out to Skylar Finnerty. Is my guy. He trains at 3K. Was up with us at Muncie CrossFit for a while, and he came down and was on their team that went to regionals. And we did a competition early on when he was really starting to go from like really good to like regional ready guy.
That's awesome.
And we were blasting through everything, and he's carrying like most of the load. I was there just kind of like eye candy,
float
whatever. And he's like, we got done, and like I just couldn't get up on the bar enough on this. I could tell he was frustrated. And I got off the rig and we got to the side, and like he was so mad. He's like, dude, I'm like, and I'm like, hey, dude, Skylar, hey, listen, I'm sorry we're not more first. Okay, and we ended up getting to the finals. Like we didn't have to go through the finals to win. And I'm just like, but that was one of the stories we tell each other. Yeah. When it's just like, gosh, like, hey, calibrate. Like we're gonna be fine. But he's such a stinking competitor. And I'm just sitting. I'm like, hey, this was what was.
We knew this going into it. Yeah.
I'm me, and you're you, and it's just not like I know cloning you would have been a better partner.
We all have our skill sets, and BJ's is just being the eye candy for
being
the team.
The eye candy. I bring the humor. That'll be my job.
Yeah. So. Speaking of, I should probably introduce you because we've been talking now for probably 5 or 10 minutes. So.
Sure.
But yeah, guys, we have BJ McKay with us. BJ owns the Arsenal Fitness.
Correct.
Right? Not just the Arsenal. Yeah. And then also is a business consultant, executive consultant, right? So tell us who BJ McKay is.
Yeah, I think it's a very deep question.
Oh yeah,
that you ask everybody that sits here, and it's one I constantly ask myself when I start each day. Given there, but I think the most functional answer for today in our conversation is I'm a man of faith, which is really important to me. Just my Catholic faith, I'm a husband to my wife, and I'm a father to my 6 kids, which is like the thing that is everything's pinned down into. When it comes to kind of functional areas, like, well, what do you do? I am a full-time leadership consultant with Advisa, which is headquartered here in Carmel, I'm one of
Advisor's a big company.
38 people for a small consulting firm. We've been around since 1985. I wasn't there in 1985, but we've been around that long.
You're not that old.
No, but I've been doing that for 14 years, and the realm that I operate in there is I work with anywhere from Fortune 100 companies. I work with Hanes Brands, Tempur Sealy. I've worked with ServiceNow. I've worked with some large companies, all the way down to 10 to 15 person tech startups that are just in and around Indianapolis and around banks, manufacturing, and all over the country. Been to Italy, been to Trinidad, been all these places to do the same thing, which is consulting on the difference between you want a business result and you come up with a business strategy. Where I and my team operates is what are the jobs, teams, leaders, and culture you need to drive that business strategy, and everything we do spawns from that. So that's my full-time day job. And then what I do, one of my biggest passions was I was a college athlete, fitness buff. Like I said, I was the guy that was watching Rocky IV on repeat when I was in middle, high school, elementary school. And yeah, it's and then I came up as a track and field athlete through high school. And then after that kind of ran its course when I went to Ball State University, struggling to find training. So I'm I found CrossFit when I was with a client in Virginia Beach and military folks. And hey, you want to do CrossFit? I'm what's that? And they did that. I'm this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's the closest approximation to the training I had as a pole vaulter, as a Division I athlete. It had gymnastics, which I did, plyometrics, which I did. It had sprinting, it had cardio, it had weightlifting, it had powerlifting. It had this is it. Yeah. And there's other people that want to do this. And so I waited a few years to start a gym for someone else to start a gym in Muncie. I'm all right, let's just somebody's going to do this. This is a great idea. It'll show up here. It didn't. So I'm all right, hell with it. It's me. So I had 5,700 square feet, started the Muncie CrossFit back in 2013. And so we just crossed the 10-year threshold up there. And then from that's grown a pretty robust PT, which if you're around in CrossFit long enough, you grow up lots of personal training. Yeah. And then we have a thriving sports performance. So we have Coach Eric Van Mater, who worked under Travis Mash, the Olympic weightlifting.
Oh, yeah. I know Travis Mash.
Yeah, so he's terrific. Glad to have him, and glad his family's from Muncie, which is why he's where he is.
Really? He's from Muncie.
And his brother is the strength and conditioning coach, Brandon, at Westdale High School, and he comes over and does strongman and helps out over too. So we're an embarrassment of riches, and we just brought on a new director of sports performance. If you're done with this, you want to hear more about us, who's just on my podcast, named Bill Zenisek, who was with the Indianapolis Colts, the Cincinnati Bengals, coached Ball State's baseball, head strength and conditioning coach for Ball State's baseball, and then he is a 14-year professor of exercise science at Ball State. So he's over there running our youth sports performance program. So that's grown to I think we have 9 or so coaches, close we vastly be 220 and 230 in terms of athletes, and that's what I do. I call it quote unquote on the side, but I'm more like the visionary manager, the managers, where's the business going to be a year from now, and then my whole team is what's going to happen within that year. So that's who I am, and I'm a CrossFit athlete fanatic. I am part of the club. When everyone's oh, you're not one of those CrossFitters, are you? I'm everything you think about this, I am. And they're I'm not going to rationalize anything. Yeah, I'm I love it. It's a great thing. So
you drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's the best Kool-Aid.
It is when you have, but you said it before, is about that ego, when it's you're managing your ego around the ego and injury are bedfellows.
Yeah. Oh, big
and
time.
If you can manage the one, you don't have to worry about the other one anywhere near as much as you think watching YouTube fail videos of what happens in CrossFit gyms, which is, they're real. I mean, when you travel...
There's stupid things that happen, for sure.
When I travel around the country for work, I'm always dropping in. I find a church to go to, and I find a CrossFit gym. Those are literally when I drop into a community and I'm what's up? And then I usually stick around the same CrossFit gym unless there's a reason to leave. And it's they're mostly average. Yeah. They're not mostly bad. They're mostly average. And every now and then you'll run into, I did a drop in up in Michigan when I was first learning. And turns out it was Hyperfit with Doug Chapman up in there. And Julie Foucher's in the corner and Neil Maddox is around the corner. I'm okay, so you're good at this. Yeah. So this is, and it was just changed the game for me. I'm whoa, there's levels, and this guy knows what he's doing and everything. And then I'd go to a real well-marketed, slick box. I'd go in, I'm oh, this is beautiful. No one knows how to coach here.
Right.
No one has this is the most awkward, I don't even know who to ask for anything. And it was this real disjointed. Yeah. My expectation was up here and there. So it's but we try to steal as much as we can from the gyms that crush it. And
That's the way to do
then asking ourselves, all right, we know this is better than what we're doing.
Yeah.
Can we do it? which is always, you've probably seen the same thing. I'd love to have this, but it's
Right.
not economically viable. I don't know if our coaches will do it. I don't know if we have enough coaches to do said blank. We're constantly trying to throw everything on the scale, and I'm an idealist.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we will.
Yeah. Visionary. Right.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
you try to slam it all in
You
there.
get the vision, and then you figure out a way to do it. And maybe it happens now, maybe it happens in the future. But yeah, if it makes sense, you continue trying to figure out.
Did I effectively introduce myself?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah. No, so, going to your gym, and then I want to dive into a little bit of what you do at Advisa and how all that works too. But going to your gym, how many members do you guys have, and how many coaches do you have?
We in and around 9 is where we usually float, including the leadership team.
And are they career coaches?
Many of them are students. They're either gaining their master's degree or their undergrad in exercise science from Ball State University, which is again, like, it's just fortunate that we have that resource right there.
That's a great resource.
On my leadership team, Coach Bill Zenisek, our sports formative coach, is a professor at Ball State, so he does what we do part time.
Yeah.
Full time ish is Emily Martin, who is a coach and our director of operations. She's our integrator in the EOS model that we operate. So she's kind of like, I would say she's everybody's boss, including mine. In the game, she's just good systems person, everything, awesome coach. And then Eric Van Meter is our head coach, and he's full time at doing it. So and Emily's also in the military in the National Guard.
Oh, cool.
So she has that. So that's the main core, and everyone else. I have some coaches that literally are in school right now and wouldn't be far away from full time style money and lifestyle right now, just working the process. And
that's awesome.
They're talented.
Well, that's the key is coaching. It's hard to say coaching is a full-time job, right? Because you're not necessarily going to be coaching more than 20 or 30 hours a week. If you're coaching or training 40 hours a week, it's exhausting mentally. So when we have career coaches here, both of our coaches, this is what they do full time. However, our general manager, she's also a nutritionist and health coach, so that's like she does that too, right? So it's when I say full time, they're coaching 20 or so hours a week, and then doing other things around the gym that need to get done, programming, scheduling, all that kind of fun stuff. But I was just curious about that because I think that's what creates a good gym is when you have professionals, right? So many gyms out there, and not saying they're bad gyms, but so many gyms out there have part-time coaches or coaches who are just there to coach to be in the community or pay for their membership, right? And that's, I've seen a downfall in some gyms because of that. There's not consistency in the schedule or consistency in the methodology of coaching, things like that. And I think when you have a team in place of people that's what they do and that's their profession, regardless if they're full time or not, if that's their profession, they're doing it to the best of their ability. So I think that's cool.
Well, and I think that I feel for the coaches that want that aspirational state, but are stuck with the timeshare people or like energy share for memberships and what have you. And we're constantly trying to do the same thing when like you have 2 people move away and you have to fill a class, and who wants to get up at 5 a.m. to get to the 5:30 class? Like I get that strain, but I think that where we've had success is how dialed in is your onboarding.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the lifespan of a coach at your facility? And can you just look at the reality of it straight in the face? If you normally keep a student coach for 1.5 years, 2 years, how do you have the fastest ramp up process to get them to deliver the minimum quality value in running a class? And like evaluate your process rather than constantly one-off looking at the coach personalities that are coming in, and let the process play itself out. Because if your process lines up, like a couple of resources that we've used that are awesome is like Rockstar Coaching. We get in, it's like a lot of the blocking and tackling, they get through that, and then we don't mess with that, and they have to be able to talk it with us, and they test it out. Same thing with Active Life, Sean Pastuch's group out of Long Beach, New York. They do a great job. Like we're trying to learn and bring in, like, how do we get a process that more often than not, when a person has the drive to do it, they have at least some educational background, which honestly, what we've learned is if it's sales and marketing or if it's exercise science, they can both work.
Yeah.
Even if you're just, because the sales and marketing wired folks already have interest in fitness, or they wouldn't be talking to us.
Right.
So we can try to hone that to like educate them up, and like there's a way to do it. And if they have exercise science, they probably haven't had a single solitary business class, entrepreneurship class. I mean, hopefully I took a personal finance class or something at least, but it's like they're so terrible at negotiating for their own well-being, their own salary, what they're worth, what they're they almost want to give it away. And I'm like, do you want to be in the fitness industry or do you want to be a hobbyist?
Right.
And
because that's what it becomes for a lot of people, because they don't figure out how to make money at it. I mean, when I was, I tried to buy a gym 12 years ago, right? And when I did that, I was trying to find a way to make money with it. Well, I had been blessed to get into a sales career that took off, and from there shut my training business down. I'm like, I'm making way more money doing sales than I ever will in personal training. That was then. Now we have the ability to utilize social media for online coaching and scale at a greater degree, even if we are doing one-on-one in-person coaching still. And that just comes from knowledge and then having the training really to do that. And a lot of people don't get that. I dropped out of school. I was going for kinesiology, and I dropped out of school because I was learning more in the industry, being a trainer, than I was in school.
Well, and it just says something about you, too, because, like, ego would say, I need this accreditation. I need this thing to validate myself. And, like, how many, there's some really good college dropouts out there to, like Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, and other people that you're like.
He's a little successful.
Yeah. It's just there's levels to the game, right? You're still a young guy. You know what I mean? You're going to go a long way. But it's like that's aspirational. And, like, honestly, those are and we have a track. This is the other thing Eric and I were talking about the other day. It's like, I want people that are hungry to not even want to work here. I want to open my own gym. Yeah. I have a place for you too. I'm like, why? I'm like, I might only have you for a year, but the potency of what you can deliver in terms of value to our members and value to you and what we can learn to you, because you are so driven to be like, I want to be my own boss. I want to make $200,000 a year. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to stop you.
Go do it better than me.
Yeah. And what I talk about after the fact, when you leave, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I'll help you plant your gym if you want help. Oh, why would you do that? I'm like, do you want me, or do you want a no-name bank that has no idea about fitness that's going to ride you on all that? Like, so, or I'm like, and I can show you how to get multiple investors, so no one's one in, so you retain. It sounds like making your own decisions is important to you. Yeah. So you want one, like Lord to be beholden to, or do you want 5 or 10 micro ones?
Right. That
all together, like, it's not a big pot of their net worth to help you get something. I never thought about all that. Well, hey, just you do what you want. Let me know what you want. Like, because I'm like, hey, and by the way, it's like, I'm not. I told my coaches all the time, like, you're like butterflies in my hand.
Yeah.
I never squeeze. Like, I want to be doing things when you leave. I have a robust alumni network that would say, hey, if you have a chance to work for BJ, Eric, Emily, you have a chance to go there, you should totally do it. Whether it's for 3 months or whether it's for 3 years, you'll leave way better off doing anything else. Like, I tell my coach, that's all we can do.
Right.
The people that like it and connect with us will actually just want to stay and grow with us, even if they move to Miami or if they move to Ohio or if they move anywhere. But that's, I mean, and honestly, that kind of dovetails into, like, just good leadership.
Yeah.
Like, good leadership's like good ethics and morals. It's not like in just one place. It's in general. You're that type of person. And if you're not authentic, if you're doing something to people,
right,
or you're trying to get something from them that's like behind the scenes, like, that shadow is going to come out. At some point, that's going to come to light, and you are who you are at that point. So I'm just like, hey, like, this is who I am. And you get tested. You're like, like, what are you going to do? What's best for the business? And there's hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you do it? Are you transparent? Do you talk first? Hey, do you even know yourself? How are you processing that information before you go out gabbing to people? There's just a lot of those moments.
Well, I think, you have to prioritize the business, right? Because if you want to help people, you got to have a business to help people with, right? But I think, where I try to prioritize is my people first, right? My team first, then the business, and then the members. And for members that are listening to this, don't take that the wrong way. We have to make sure the business is around so that you can be members of the gym, right? Like, so, we try to evaluate things like that. And okay, is this going to benefit my people? Is this going to benefit the business? And then is this going to benefit the members? And how do we maneuver life and business that way, right? But exactly as you said, if people are in it for the wrong reasons, it will shine through at some point.
And that's one of my mistakes I made for you coaches listening is I started weirdly, like, not worrying about the business or even me. I worried too much about my coaching. I put my coaches first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if I just get the coaches good, the members are going to get the value, whatever. And I didn't think about the business enough.
Yeah.
So we didn't make money for a long time. I didn't make any money. And it's just like, I had a business coach like, hey, you can't keep loving a business that doesn't love you back.
Right.
And I'm like,
and that's called a hobby. right?
Yeah, and it was like, and it hurt to be like, yeah, I'm like, but it was like, it gave me an altruistic feeling. It still fulfilled a need, and I got value from it.
Right.
It just wasn't a good business. So if I looked at you, hey, Will, buy my business, and you look at it like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you would look at the part like, there's a lot of good here, but you're not making any money.
You're like, what business?
Exactly. So
well, yeah, and I
we
think
shifted that.
I think it's good, that members kind of understand that, because you every member has an opinion, right? And those opinions I listen to. I'm like, hey, give me your feedback. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to make changes based on that, but it helps us come up with ideas. It helps us think through things, and we want to make sure that we're impacting the membership in the right way. But at the same point too, you can't make decisions based off members, because members come and go, and they move, they change jobs, they change schedules, they change motivations. Members come and go. You have to make business decisions that are going to keep the business around for the long haul, and prioritize that so you have a business to help people through.
100%. Yeah, it's like one of my, I don't know if it's a weakness or a strength. Sometimes it's both. Is like I actually care.
Yeah.
I want folks to love it. I don't want them to just like it. Right. I want them to love the coaches. I want them to love me. I want them to love where we're going. I want them to be bought into the vision. And when you don't, you get feedback, and it's either feedback that's, that shows that what they perceive this is not what it really is. It's like I kind of feel bad. I'm like, man, is that a communication problem on our end?
Yeah.
Are we saying something, or it's like it's personal. The personal ones bug you the most. Where you're just like, oh, come on, like, and sometimes people just don't even know you. They have a perception, etc. And it's just like that gets in there. That's going to happen. But like, it's like coaches. It's like, this is your baby, and you're like, it's almost, you feel like you're doing this public service. It's like playing, like, especially in the CrossFit realm. Yeah. It's a closer proximity to people planning a church, than it is to a business, because members are like, they're sometimes more hardcore and nuts about the brand and you and everything than you are.
Yeah.
And it's like, other organizations are like, man, I wish my people got together and like could rally that much about what we do. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have that problem. Yeah. If we host something or we want to do something, like, everyone shows.
People are in.
You have to be careful.
It's their community, right? That's where they build community at. And that's as we're onboarding personal training clients, new members, all that, we tell them the best way to make this a sustainable change is through joining in the classes and getting to know the community. You're going to make friends. Those friends are going to text you and go, hey, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. Where you been? And then your ass is going to get up the next morning and get to the gym at 5:15 a.m. because you're like, oh man, I don't want to let so and so down. I want to be there to support them just like they're supporting me. And that may be subliminal, but that's a big part of it, is building that community in a way. And as you said, it's a church-like community in a lot of ways.
And they're level up friends. Like, I think a lot of times we get victim of our circumstances, or we're like the king of the molehill when it comes to like the people that we keep around us, and when you get to a CrossFit gym and you're not of it, you start seeing people faster than you, stronger than you, that also have like, they're working moms, or they're like, oh, they're all these things, like, oh my gosh, you're normal people, but like, you're so hardcore and you're able to do it, and that like levels you up. And that's like a new business that we're leaning into, is like and I think any CrossFit gym owner listening to this is like something you should consider, is like that most organizations you go to, they are unfit. Yeah. A lot of people there are unwell, and you can have wellness programs, you can do all this other stuff, but we go back, I'm riffing off your accountability piece, is like, there's not good accountability cycles. Well, and I go back down to the functional thing with the work I do at Advisa. Most meetings where you're together are unfit. They are not good meetings. They are boring. They lack energy. And there's all the sciences out there about the importance of movement, the importance of interact. Like, it's all out there about all that stuff. So why aren't you incorporating more of that? So I think that a joke, this line will be coming out in our product line, is like, we fix broken meetings. Or instead, let's get that group together. Let's get some movement. We have a sweat meter from 0 to 10. 0 to 3, you can just wear your street clothes, come back to work. It's going to have movement at different stations. We're going to be thinking about things differently, etc. All the way to 10, like, we want the full Monty. And then we do an intake of everybody, no matter what their age is, so that we can effectively program around ability level, so everyone feels like they're part of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And say, hey, like, great. So when you got done, I know it's typically an hour meeting, and we took the same hour. Do you feel like you got the same or more accomplished in less time today? Yeah. And it's that's like the game is rigged. Yeah. They're going to be like, this is great. Can we do this once a week? Can we do this once a month? And what
they're asking to have meetings then, yeah.
And what you can bill for that, think about what a catering bill is for a team of 20. If they just went to lunch, any coach that's running that's going to make substantially more money with that, and the business didn't spend any more money than they otherwise would have for that amount of time. So it's like you're changing the game, and then what are you doing? Well, engagement matters at this company, and we want employees to feel better, and we want them to be happy. Look at what all your members look like outside in your gym right now when they're walking out. Usually a smile on their face. That sucked. Where's happening tomorrow? Am I going to see you later? Like, I don't see anybody walking out sad.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I'm disappointed I came in today.
Maybe pale. Maybe with a little puke on their lips. But other than that,
But I think like that's where it's gyms being creative. Sometimes as gym owners, like we get too myopic about what our product is. Yeah. And then we get too small in thinking about who our clientele is. And you don't think wide enough, like, well, who needs this? Right. And if you have done this before, you're like, you're street evangelists.
Yeah. Well, and ego, again, right? Not letting or getting the ego out of the way to go, I'll try something new. And we'll try it and see if it works.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I'm afraid to suck at things too. Yeah. It's like one of my favorite quotes is from John Wheeler, who was a physicist and a contemporary of Einstein, who said, as our island of knowledge grows, so too do the shores of our ignorance. And I'd say, well, what's your job, BJ? And I'm like, my main job is holding people by the hand and walking them into the endless abyss of what they don't know. Yeah. To what? Expand their island. Yeah. Because as the island expands and you're aware, you get more humble.
Well, and it is humbling, yeah, because it's just like getting punched in the mouth, right? Like everybody has a plan until they get punched.
I was going to wear that shirt today. Oh, man. I bought it I have a Mike Tyson's. I was going to wear it today.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great quote because I think this will be an interesting topic to discuss here. I think that many people have a false sense of ego, a false sense of pride, that they've never proven themselves in a hard environment. And because of that, they think, they only know what they know, right? And the hardest environment may be high school sports. It may be college sports. And sure, I'm not taking anything away from that. That's tough training. It's hard work, but it's controlled. It's a controlled environment, right? I was talking with somebody about this the other day about, and those people, they may never have been in a fight before, but they think they'll start shit. They'll start shit with people because they think they've got it, and then they get punched in the mouth, and it's like, what just happened? I'm usually the big guy. Nobody messes with me, and now somebody's willing to throw a punch back. I don't know what to do, and I think that that's something that society struggles with. And the person I was talking with this about, we were talking about how men need physicality to create humility, right? To understand where, when I've been tapped out by a dude half my size, it's humbling. You go, okay, I need to get better. My strength doesn't always work. My size doesn't always work, and I'm using physical, physicality as a comparison here, but this applies to business too. It applies to sales. It applies, yeah.
No, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's the risk is being exposed. Like when you walk in and you're not even a white belt, you're wearing street clothes in a jiu-jitsu like school. That's like the worst day of jiu-jitsu is the one you're in right now. The day you actually get like a gi on or whatever, and you have your white belt and it's fresh and clean and like stiff. Yeah. That's is actually a little bit easier day than that first day when you're like, I'm wearing like Velcro shoes. Yeah. I'm like just about to get whooped.
Everybody's like this newbie.
Yeah. And I think, CrossFit gym's the same way, where I talk to somebody about like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, what are you talking about? You did the hardest rep ever. I'm like, what'd you do? I'm like, you pulled on that handle and came in here. I'm like, this looks like look at all the self-discipline in this here. I'm like, look at them. They're all fit already. This isn't self-discipline. I have to like make them leave. They won't leave. I'm like, we're done here. It's like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, you have, they don't have, they might be humble. Yeah. They might be. Yeah. You are. It's on display here, and that you can do jiu-jitsu, you can do there. But I think in leadership roles and organizations, it's the same thing. It's like there's imposter syndrome. And how do you get imposter syndrome figured out? And salespeople learn it quicker than anybody. Where it's like you have to go out and you might be selling a half-built plane. Yeah. And the pressure that you sold it, hey, if I sell it for this and do this, I believe we will get this plane actually finished that I promised this person in 4 months or in 3 months or in 2 months, depending upon your sales cycle. Yeah. And it's like the salespeople are like, oh my gosh, we did it. Yeah. I'm like, great. Now guess what you can say with confidence historically? We did that. But I joke with my kids, what do you do, Dad? What do you do? And like, how'd you come up and how did you get successful? And I'm like, driving down the highway, I'm like, anytime you see a semi-truck, what happened? I'm like, someone like me made that semi-truck leave a dock to go to another dock. So anytime, like with the people that Dad coaches, the people that Dad goes to, whatever, I'm like, and all of these, even the cars that are on this road, don't show up on this road. If the people that I interacted with and didn't do their jobs well, that's the function I have. It just stops.
That's cool.
And they're like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but versus the people that think of like selling and sales, even especially in the fitness world where it's like you look down your nose, oh, I don't want to do that or whatever. I'm like, if you treat it like that, that's about how good you're going to be.
Yeah.
If you think it's like slick used cars, like the hackneyed stereotypical used car salesperson, you're going to be terrible and awful at it. But if you treat it, and this is when I'm doing training with folks in sales negotiation and influence, like you're learning to be a surgeon and you are practicing with surgical precision and you're learning a process and you're evaluating yourself. How one brain surgeon does brain surgery, another one's actually a little different based on how they're wired and what they want to do. And I think when you look at it that way, I'm like, the amount of money you can make is unfair. And people look at you like, oh, you like how did you do that? I'm like, because I has to start with a level of respect and willing to do. And how did we start this with this part of the conversation with willingness to do hard things, especially with men. We talked about that in leadership roles. Like you have to put yourself out there. And we do with Advisa, we have 3 levels of pretty intense leadership development for emerging leaders, about a 3-month program. Frontline managers, leadership fundamentals, which is about a 6-month program. And then we have a 9-month leadership academy for more senior executives. And it's like the hardest thing about that isn't what we charge for it. Whoa, 3 months? And I talk about it. I constantly go back to the well of like fitness. So like, you want me to do a day. So you want me to show you the gym out here and show you how all the equipment works. We'll spend 8 hours and then I'll give you like 4 workouts in a day. What happens when that's over? Do you know what everything does in here? Yeah. Okay. Are you any fitter? No, I feel like shit. Yeah.
Now the
but with leadership, it's actually complicated with a lot of stakes in people's lives and all these egos and all these personalities. You want me to do a 2-day workshop. That's like saying, yeah, I'm a vegan 1 Monday a year. Like, oh, I already worked out. I worked out in January 1st. I did the whole thing. I'm fit for the year.
I'm good.
It's just asinine when you think about it.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to grow stronger and everything, I think, and this is another piece that might be useful for folks to hear, is that men haven't done in particular, which is a ministry field for me with my faith, is they've been able to avoid hard things, get away with being the talker. Social media has not helped that. You know, keyboard courage is real. Like when I go out, like like whatever, and I'm like,
I've been talked to by people through text before, and then the way they talk to me in person is way
hey,
different.
Will. I'm like, well, no, you don't get to do that to me. You hold up the text tree.
There you go, asshole. Yeah.
Well, I told my son in a line, like, having 6 kids, like, most of your brilliance just falls on the floor to get trampled upon. You don't really get any
no
credit.
Doubt.
But I did,
especially when you got to apologize for yelling at them or something, and like, crap, should have done that. It's like that. Talk about humbling, right? When you're apologizing to your 8-year-old.
I'm good at that now. I'm really good at the level, having an 18-year-old and having a 1-year-old. Like I have both right now, and it's like it's a riot. But I did tell my kids. There's one that landed, and I could tell because there's that moment of like big eyes where they were aware, like, okay, I'm like, when you like want to know if it hits, or you're trying to tell yourself, my kids are going to love to hear this, and they just completely bypass whatever, Dad. This is one of them at once. I'm like, hey, you know the difference between a neck tattoo and a social media post? They're like, what, Dad? I'm like, you can get rid of the neck tattoo. And they're like, it's just immediate evaluation tool to like, what if oh my gosh, whatever. I'm like, yeah.
It's there forever.
But going back to hardening up and getting tough and being fit as a person or as a leader with your character and everything is like, are you doing things daily to build up that tolerance or to build up the version of you that's aspirational? And in my executive coaching, I always joke with folks, I'm like, well, and the ones I coach the best are usually the ones that are alpha that are typically uncoachable by other people. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not here to teach anything. What are you here to do? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, your problems I don't particularly care about. And they just kind of look at me puzzled. And I'm like, if you think I'm here to like be better than you or do all this other, like I'm not, like I just kind of like deconstruct what this really is. Yeah. I am going to give you a clear vision of what you expect to be and what this world will look like from your hands when you're 90. When you're 80, when you're 70, when you're 60, when you're 55, 50, 45, which would be 5 years from now for whoever I was talking about. Yeah. Those are your mentors. We need to create those characters. We need to get them all built out. That's what we're going to do first. Then you don't answer to me. You answer to them because you're the CEO of this company, whatever. You don't answer to anybody. You not answering to anybody is our real problem right now. It's why you're stuck in the top of this mountain that you're dissatisfied with. But then that became, though, you get this feedback. Oh my gosh, I thought about it. And I didn't even have to get much past the 45-year-old version of me. I didn't have to go. But most people don't do that thinking. They're living 3 inches in front of their face.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do when you think that close? I mean, you've had how many people you've probably helped here come in. If you were living even later that night or the next day, you would eat different.
Right.
You would treat people different. You would think about your breathing practice. You would think about your hydration. You would think about your sleep ritual. You would think about, how many of you listen to this have thought about any of that today? But most of your problems are going to spawn from the fact that you're starting off with like 40% in the tank. Your expectation's 100%. It's the morning.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant when you went to bed at like 1 because you couldn't stop watching Yellowstone. You had 2 beers. Actually, you had 3 maybe. We don't know. You wake up in the morning. You're in the red on your sleep. Your recovery's terrible. Your HRV's down. Your resting heart rate's like floating around 64. And all of a sudden, you're telling me like, I want to go hard today. I'm like, your body says you did it. You're done.
Yeah. I think that's one of the kind of reverting back to CrossFit here. I think that's one of the coolest things about utilizing CrossFit as one of your daily disciplines, because you are so tapped after a workout that, from a glycogen standpoint, from, a physical standpoint, just like you are smoked at the end of a good workout, right? And because of that, you can't get away with drinking in the middle of the week. I mean, you can, but you're going to feel like shit. You're going to be tired. You're not going to be productive at work. For me, I do a lot of, creative work, and that creative work is developing and growing my businesses, right? I can tell a huge difference if I have a drink one night a week or in the middle of the week. I can tell a huge difference in my performance the next day, my mental clarity and everything. And a big part of that is, you could probably get away with that if you're not physically active. But you could probably get away with that just by going to LA Fitness and getting a pump for 30 minutes. But when you're tapping yourself like that every day and digging deep and going to that dark place to get done with a workout, you're looking at what you're eating that day. You're looking at what you're drinking that day. You're looking at how you're hydrating, how you're sleeping, what time you go to sleep, because that workout the next day is going to be a lot harder if you don't.
Well, and I think you just laid out the roadmap that we have for our athletes when they come in, and it's our formula, which is assessment and baseline, then goal, and then you have like reassessment along the way. Like that's how you learn your progress. And awareness, I broker in awareness. It's my business is awareness, detachment, the word deserve, both I didn't deserve that or I do deserve that, and resentment. Like these are the worlds that I live in. But like you have that awareness. That awareness for a lot of people is a burden. So they don't even want to know. Yeah. I don't want to. And the fact of the matter is, I know what a beer, 2 beer, 3. I know what. I know the time of day. Yep. I know what sleep I have. But I think that a lot of people think it's fitness. I'm not going to run a marathon next week. I just want to be healthy. I'm like, in shape, dude. Sure. When you make critical decisions at work and you have to deal with conflict situations, you have to make business negotiations. What state do you want your body in when you're about to do that? Yeah. And it's like, I think that's it. It's below the waterline. It's like the iceberg that's below the waterline that I'm like, I'm not talking about making you Mr. or Miss Olympia here. Sure. I'm not even talking about you having 6-pack abs. I'm not even talking to you being like at the weight you even should be. I'm talking about the fact that your cognition, your ability to capture things from your mind, your ability to clearly communicate, your ability to experience a normal range of emotions and manage that relies on these things. Yeah. And you neglect them and you wonder. And what happens is when your state is off, Tony Robbins talks about state, story, and strategy. When your state is off, which is why he talks about priming and everything, and you talk about yourself, I got to get me set first, whatever, it's all in alignment with that. Yeah. When that's off, guess what the story is? It's victim stories. It's like the story's already been set for the day because of that sleep or because you didn't work out or you maybe later. I should have time later. I'm going to do it's the shoulda, coulda versus, hey, why don't you put it on the calendar and then you'll have to opt out of it later. Yeah. Let's just cordon off that time and see what happens. I don't know if I'm talking.
That's a very interesting point you make, though, of how you put yourself into a victimized role when you do that. Because now you're blaming other things. Oh, well, I can get sleep, so now I'm a victim of not getting enough sleep. Right?
Yeah. I got overload. I was doing emails late last night. I'm like, what the hell are you doing emails late last night for? And you break it down. I mean, the funny thing is when I'm coaching people, it's more of an awareness exercise than an education. Once you ask the right kind of diagnostic questions, people go, "Oh my God!" Oh, they'll make all the patterns. They know their life. They live their life. You didn't.
Yeah.
They have all the patterns, and then when they see the pattern connect, it's brilliant to watch. Oh. All right, great. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
What do you do with that now? And they'll come up with the perfect prescription for it. Hey, let's try that. Well, what else? I think that's perfect. Let's check in here.
Yeah.
Let's check in there. And then all of a sudden, they're like, sometimes they'll miss the check-in. Like, why? I'm like, hey, how's things going? Let's go great. I'm like, Dave, we were supposed to check in yesterday. Yeah, I didn't need to. I'm like, it just makes me feel so good that I'm like, great, now you are empowered because you own the fact that that was 100% your fault. And going back to why aren't people tougher for real? Why aren't they harder? Why aren't they this? Because it's way easier to live in the realm of other people are the reason this is happening to me.
Yeah.
And even won't even go into bigger nonsense, like the bigger societal. Like I go way far away from anything I have any agency in to inflict it on my own life. Versus what we coach is self-awareness breeds self-management. And they both start with the word self-will. So where are you going to hide?
Yeah.
And when you start there and work outward, weird how the world gets nicer. Weird how things get easier. I mean, your story that you shared with me, and I'm sure many of your listeners and members that listen to this have heard before, like you're a complete testament to that.
Yeah.
How many opportunities have you had to feel bad about yourself and to feel self-pity and where am I at? What did I do here? Now it's over. Like no one would have faulted you for that. Right. You know what I mean? You should, but you chose a different road.
Yeah.
I mean, even white knuckling, there's no brakes in this car, and you had to like turn, and you turned.
Figuring it out.
And I think most people go on a wider road. Well, that's easier. It's better to feel bad right now. It feels right to feel bad right now.
Yeah.
It feels right to have these donuts. It feels right to drink this beer. It feels right to just binge on social media, watch these movies. And I just joke with people. They're like, "What do you do? What's the quickest answer when people give you the quotables? What's the quotable?" And I'm like whatever your body wants to do, immediately start doing the opposite. Like that's the quickest one. I'm like, why? Calories, no calories. Your body is genetically dispositioned, evolutionarily, to have more rather than less. Less sugar, more. But keep going.
Well, the body seeks comfort
over and over again. But now we're getting to a place where we're trying to make that okay. That like in the prefrontal mind, like a lot of what like the over like the pendulum swinging over to the direction of like psychological safety, and you need a self-care day, and you need all the like, and I'm not saying that there isn't a place. So if you're listening to this and like you can save the hate mail for a minute. All right. It's how quick do we get there?
Yeah.
We go real quick to give like the pity party its due. And I'm like, maybe let's ask a few more questions.
Yeah.
Let's maybe see, like, would you rather need, even if you get one of those, would you rather need less of them? You know, like, of course we would.
Yeah.
Would you rather be the dude in the bar that if things went down, people could rely on you? Or would you rather be the loud talking guy who's never taken a class in boxing, jiu-jitsu, martial in their whole life that's just living on artifice? You're a big fake. And like at some point, if you're listening and you haven't had your moment yet, your moment's coming. And it's all going to fall apart in front of you. Versus me at this point in my life, I see even 100-pound person with cauliflower ear, I stay away. Yeah. I'm like, smart move. We're gonna go to a different bar. I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't want, dude. You can. I'm like, dude. It's like you overvalue size. I just want you to know that, like, you overvalue size, and it's just. By the way, if you're a UFC fan, like when UFC came up, it was like I thought Hoist Gracie would have just shown everybody, like at that moment, the world should have woke up.
Yeah. I should be more humble.
Yeah, like that dude walked in and like, and by the way, wearing a gi into that situation is a bad idea. He's like, it won't matter, and he was totally right.